All right, whenever you're ready. We good? Awesome. How's everyone doing? It's the last talk of the day.
Yeah.
Of the con. All right, so here we are at SecureWV, as well as HackerCon here. My name's Jeremy Mio. Giving back, submitting a PTES 101. I have a multitude of roles. One of them is Information Security Officer at local government in the state of Ohio. Go on the agenda here. There's what and why. How many are familiar with PTES? Raise your hands. Participate here. We're going to go through our Phishing Frankenstein, we'll call it, our submission, still pending, and how you can give back, how the entire community needs to start giving back more and more, and helping out with the standards, and as well as some of the technical things as well. Understanding the updates and gaps, and then kind of having a discussion forum here. We're going to leave the end as a discussion about PTES and what we can do and what should be done. Going to me a little more, again, Information Security Officer, one of the top 30 largest local governments in the U.S. I have a software development company that I co-run in Cleveland. I'm also a weapons instructor and evolved all the things, speak at all the things. Very active, getting more and more active, trying to speak at more and more places. So talking about PTES is who knows it, who uses it. I'm getting there. Just wondering if the people that know it. So PTES is the penetration testing and execution standard. And basically what it has a whole set of, through the engagement all the way to the reporting, the testing, everything you can have within a penetration test. It goes through as it's detailed to have legitimate, like literally commands, what to run, what tools to run, goes through the tools, goes through the threat modeling, goes through every aspect of a penetration test that you should know and what you should follow. Everything from budgeting to scoping. It's very much needed in the InfoSec community, especially for people that have a lot of good skills and go out and be contractors, help companies out, do bug bounty programs, then do full pen tests on certain companies. And we all need to have some form of a standard to follow, so everyone's doing something that can be compared and contrasted, right? If you have a lot of people doing penetration testing out there, they're probably all not, once you do it once with a company, you're going to stay with that company forever, as much as I'm sure everyone would want that to happen. You need to be able to compare and contrast, be able to understand exactly what they're doing. The companies themselves need to know what you're doing and having those standards as well. So I'm sure there's a lot more people that can explain the entire penetration testing execution standard better than me, but we're kind of going through our specific story, what we tried to look through PTES, and then what we found and some of the gaps and what we created. So it's gaining a lot of popularity. It's ever increasing. It's included in SANS testing. It's included in a lot of the other training institutes. I believe it's taught at Marshall University here. But some of the problems is that it needs more support and contributions to fully meet the goal, that become a full standard. And that's kind of the problem that's going through right now. I can't speak too much to it. I'm not on the board of PTES, but I do know that they have a lot of people on that. Some people are contributing, some people aren't. Everyone's busy. There's a lot of researchers on the group. They created it from about 6 people that started it, and then all of a sudden it expanded rapidly throughout everyone in the industry. And it's been updated, but not updated as frequently as it should, especially how much pen testing is changing. So, as I said before, stand together, contribute. Somebody said once, if we don't build a form or standard, then somebody else will eventually. Bill Gartner talked at DerbyCon about the formal standard, and if we don't create a formal standard, then a formal standard will be created, and we might have to follow it. There might be regulations, and we might not like those standards. So we need to do as much as we can beforehand to make sure that we have all of our input. So let's go into our scenario. All right. So our scenario was we need to roll out phishing email testing. How many people do phishing email testing in their companies or as pen testers? So we had to roll this out. And pretty much we need to document the summary and approval to the need to knows, right? So you can't tell everyone you're doing phishing testing or it wouldn't be a test, even though you could probably still get a pretty good success ratio, even if they did know about it. But only the need to knows, and they need the main goal is you need to have the executives feel comfortable with the process and help them understand the process, right? Once executives understand the process, that you're not going to burn all the things once you send these emails out, and they feel comfortable with it, they'll let you do it more and more. They'll get involved, and some of them, when they learn a little about it and even some of the technical aspects of how it works, they find it really, really cool, at least in my experience. So get them involved, right? So what do we do about this problem? Well, not only did we have the problem of not having documentation ready for this, we had some other problems as well during this specific time frame in our scenario. We had 2 weeks to do it, and we had no documented process. So we had 2 weeks to roll out, this entire process. We had a tool set already priced out and already engaged, luckily. So we just need the documented process. But we only had 2 weeks, so what do? What any good InfoSec researcher does was research. We went to PTES, we went to other testing standards, went to SANS, trolled around all the researchers that we know, went to vendors, went to the Google and all the interwebs, and we kind of really couldn't find much. We found a lot of penetration testing test scoping documents. We found engagement testing. We found a lot of quality assessment, quality assurance testing documents. Nothing that really fit what we needed. Is anyone familiar with this type of document that exists? Because it could exist somewhere. Has anyone that uses PTES ever wrote up an approval form? Because usually, how does your approval forms for a fish test usually go? So no, mine have gone in the past. It's usually like an email approval, right? Like to either the CISO or the security or the executive or whoever's in charge of the contract. They say, yeah, you can do it. You usually give them a 1-paragraph summary, maybe, or they just give you a green light, or there's a specific threat model that you're attacking, that is engaged in the entire test. I mean, is there anybody, experienced researchers and no one? No engagement, no talking. Come on. Right. Yeah, emails to C-levels, right? So, what do we do? So we created this probably doesn't come up, but it zooms in. So yeah, and we created a very simple process. We didn't want like hundreds of pages of documents. I think we came out to like an 8-page, maybe not even document. So one of the things is, and I'll read some of this off here. You don't need to, but we stated our purpose right there. So this 1 page, testing process was just for the executives to understand what the full process is without going through the whole document, right? So, we let them know the purpose statement, raise awareness, prevent any breach of data through communication channels. We go through a summary of how attackers, use fake emails and what they can get from that, the outcomes of that. So we go through all that. We also talk about how it's conducting an employee embracing awareness test that can strengthen security awareness greatly, transitioning the users through education to be, again, the human firewall, right? So really not only talking about testing our users, laughing at them, having these ridiculous percentages, but also embracing them and teaching them. So having teaching moments, which, some tool sets have built in, right, if you actually pay some money for this, or if you do it, just directly through setting up your own phishing test, or doing it through Metasploit, or doing it through, a number of, custom or built ways, is that you can always have a simple link that redirects them to an oops page kind of thing that kind of goes through. So we're going to go through exactly what we did. Going into it a little more, I kind of went through it all, but to initiate the approval for the testing engagement, we kind of went through past the purpose and past the kind of the objectives is, how does this get approved, right? So what we did was, to get approval is got to go through the testing approval form has to go through the Department of IT. Usually includes a security team head, right? If you even have a security person, C-suite, other necessary members, right? Pretty much from the IT department, either outsourced, insourced. It can go through the administration or company's executive board, right? So the head of IT, or whoever is in charge of that program, maybe it's even the CFO in some form, presents this to the people that need to know. This can be a whole gamut of people. We include all this yellow in here is just kind of where we suggest or have a little template information. So we have everything from communications contacts, the law general counsel, consumer affairs, PR, physical security contact, HR contact, external entities. This can vary, it depends on the test that you're doing, but we're trying to just give you as much as much information as you can to make that determination. And then we go through, again, kind of went through just that second process. And then number 3, here's the testing completion, right? So how is the test going to be completed? So the Department of IT has a specific scope executed. The fish test SOP will be followed, that follows this document. It's approved by both the board and or in the vendor SOW. And then it goes through how a very, very 1 or 2 sentences on how the information's collected or not collected, not stored, the amount of time that a follow-up communication goes, how many people that use or do conduct phishing tests have a kind of like a timeline of when you have to let the company know that something's going on, right? How does that usually get measured?
So when we are going to do a fish, we
right.
say, here's the time frame from when.
Right. Yeah, how do you gauge that? Does it vary from test to test, or is it always 2 hours, 4 hours, half a day?
So it varies client to client, but we try to keep it the same. Just
right. Exactly. Right. So again, going through that. Also, we have a specific use case we inserted at the end of this, and it's actually not highlighted in yellow, but it's that kind of other text. I'm not sure how this is, but we almost serve as a umbrella company for all of our sub agencies, and they can request services through us. So we also made this form as a communication method or communication vector to those other agencies that we can conduct this testing. So you can actually request specific testings, specific of your department, because you know your landscape better than us, So we actually gave that that section in there just for us, so they can actually request processes for cross-company requesting. So depending on how the IT units are set up, you can do that, especially if you have a parent company. It's really nice. It gets all the other kind of child companies involved. There's always usually an interesting atmosphere or culture around the corporate or umbrella company, parent company, and the child companies. So this helps mend that process a lot. So going right into it, right? So the executives love this. It's, again, usually this is at least found in a lot of the email formats and other documents I've seen get passed, but it's really just, what are you doing real quick? Who's the point of contact right in the top? And then the quick reference table. So it goes through like domains to be spoofed, email subject, attachment information, very links to be included, and then scheduled or one time. The executives love this little quick reference table, right? And then, I guess, I'll go back here. Also, at the bottom of that is just the summary of the test. That's just a one-paragraph summary. Keep it very short. Most executives won't read past this. But the good thing about every page past this is it's usually pictures. So it's pretty easy to just flip through real quick. So going through this is the scope of the test, which is, again, I've never seen a lot of people scope out a test very detailed. It's not even that detailed at all. I hope some companies do this. In my experience, a lot of pen test companies, when they do a phishing test, they don't really go to this detail. And once executives understand what the phishing testing could do, they like to know this, but they usually don't know to ask these questions because they just think that it's going to go out to everyone or it's going to go out to this specific department. But going out and actually going through the scope, the specific departments, and then the amount of email addresses in each department gives them a scale of how many people might click on these things, right? It kind of gives a number to each person instead of each department just being IT. You go to the executive and ask them how many employees are in their IT department or how many employees are in HR. They're going to be very wide ranges, unless it's a small company. I mean, and that will differ, but we have an example in there. It goes through physical, sales, IT, HR, executive staff, and legal for a total number of 496 users, right? Again, it also kind of goes through and says that who was specifically excluded, right? So I know some of my good friends in the red teaming space, they have something that they've coined, and maybe they're watching this, but I'm completely stealing this from them. They coined something called the diamond level. And if someone has a specific amount of diamonds, they're off limits. It's just how it is. It's how it has to function. And these are, when I talk about, usually this isn't very large. You're talking about 100,000 employees or plus that you have these, because there's just so many executive levels or specifics in each department. You need to have a list out. So it's always good to see who's specifically excluded. If it's a CEO, the VP of Public Relations, which can differ from, you do want to test them in some form or fashion, but you want to maybe spearfish them or do others. It's up to you. This is just a framework or template of how to do it, not telling you how to do it. Other things to take in mind, though, is exclude interns, volunteers, and contractors. You never know. And I've seen this get messed up before, especially within the contracting space. If you fish a contractor, and depending on the terms of service and their contract that they have with that company, it can get dicey pretty fast. Especially also understand if you have unions or not. But again, that's kind of basic, knowing how to do a pen test and a phishing test, more than what this document's about. But also in the scope of the test, it just, at the end, has the timeline, right? So testing 9 a.m. to 12 a.m., 3 hours, gathering data 12 to 1 p.m., and then 1 p.m. after lunch, full email notification going out, right? So things like that to include. Going through this a little more is just a quick thing of answer yes to the following. File types, macros or code, data gathered and how, further explanations of attachment, if an attachment exists. Does the email contain a link or not? If it contains a link, again, screenshot the page. And another thing to always put, and a lot of our executives worry, and it actually gives us a lot more leeway when we specify this, is, we don't gather any information on landing pages in any way, shape, or form. So, for instance, if you had a phishing test of gathering Social Security numbers or requesting Social Security numbers, usually I always point those to null. So letting them know that any data that is, if people are susceptible and do go all the way with the phish testing, that their data is actually not stored, right? So going a little further, always have an education and learning moment if the information is either requested, submitted, or entered, and having the screenshots for that. And we'll go through a document right here to show you all of these. And then any other specific notifications or messages you have. And the base part of this is, let me go back a little, is the approval signatures, right? Not only by one person or the C-level, but at least a few people. Again, IT has to know it's going on in some form. The top C-level, and then maybe other additional executive administration. This might be counsel or general counsel or something to that matter. And then at the end, the legal stuff and restrictions, just documented. The to-do, the TOS is a term of services. Again, we have that in ours because we're giving this down to some agencies, sub-agencies. So we have terms of services and SLAs with them. This is good for, again, if it's a contracted company doing this as well. Also, just having the prohibited tests, right? What is explicitly never going to happen? For instance, setting out a malicious worm is not going to happen, right? Things like that. And then the privacy. Again, it's kind of reiterating that not storing any information, or if you are storing information, specifically what and how, right? Are you sending crafted links that are just getting the fingerprint of that agent based on the link they click? Now, if you're doing that, if they forward that link on, is that going to show additional statistics if they forward to the help desk and the help desk clicks on it, right? How's that going to work? So, this is our example, all right? So we had 2 weeks from the Cleveland area, free tickets and background checks. All we need is your Social Security number, and we need to do it fast. So we had something that was somewhat big. It was called the RNC, it was the Republican National Convention, and we conducted a phishing test specifically targeting employees. So, how do we do this? Hopefully this works. Of course I want to open this document that could contain viruses. Okay, that's not going? How's that? There we go. There we go. Okay, this will hopefully not be very painful. So, we go through there, right, now I don't have my notes here. I have to kind of get a sip of water here. Okay, so we got my contact information. What are we going to spoof? Well, we're going to spoof republican-convention.org, right? And what's the subject going to be? Again, right there, redeem your tickets. Notice the misspelled redeem there. I like phishing tests because if I misspell things, I just say, yeah, it was included in the email. It happens often. So, what are we doing? Any attachments? No attachments. What's the link, right? So this is the link right here. It's gonna go out to. It's just a one-time test. What's the summary of the test, right? The email is gonna go out soliciting free tickets to county employees. The email will have a link to sign up for tickets and a background check. Upon submission, the user form will be redirected to a landing page, see below, with an educational message. Okay, I'm not going to read all this out. And it goes on that it's going to go about 3 hours. Data is going to be analyzed. A follow-up email is then going to go out, explain the exercise, right? So it says note during the test, no information is going to be stored on the landing page, et cetera, et cetera. Again, it goes through the scope of the test, specifically the amount, what employees, in which departments, who's excluded, when it's going to happen. Go through. Again, very simple, just a test email shot. This helps executives so much to understand this. It's just literally a screenshot. What's exactly going to happen? This is exactly what it's going to look like. Pretty much very plain. It's not going to have an attachment. Don't have to worry about that. What's it going to look like? It's going to be very, very simple. Right? So it's going to look like, it's not exactly like that, but in the Word document, that's what, pretty much it's going to look like. Now, they're going to enter information. As you see, it says full name, employee ID number, pretty sensitive, depending, email, date of birth, address, and then last 4 of the social, right? And if you read this email here, it says, pretty much says to do so, we need to validate your identity ASAP for a background check, right? This is like literally going out the Thursday before the RNC. There's only 25 tickets, right? Everyone wants to go and see all the Republicans and delegates, right? Very cool thing to do. So what are you going to do when you submit this, right? It's going to go through and right here. So not only does it say oops, right? We had specific screenshots of what exactly they should have caught, right? Spelling and grammar, threats or enticements that kind of make a sense of urgency. Links unrecognized, right? If you hovered over that, if you can't see that, but does anyone want to guess what that the subdomain of that redirect was? Any guesses? Come on, guys and girls. Huh? No, it literally said, "Do not click this link."
.com?
No, that was a subdomain. It was "do not click this link." And it was like a whole, just random character domain .net or something like that. So that was always fun. It's like passive aggressive testing. So again, generic signatures goes through, and then again it says how to report, right? So we've come, specifically us as a agency, has come a long way. We completely centralized just about a few years ago. So a lot of people, a lot of departments all of a sudden now have to kind of report not to their single help desk anymore. They have to go to centralized. A lot of people are very confused on how to even report things. So it's getting better, but some people don't know how to report things. They just don't in our landscape, unfortunately. So yeah, we give them exactly how to do it. So when it happens again, you know what to do. And we got great feedback. So much feedback that we got requests from the executives of how they would like, the testing to go and what they think would be a good test. Again, we're rolling out this thing where people can kind of request their kind of like test, right? So everyone kind of gets involved. And we have a whole pool of testing, kind of examples and scenarios, which most of them are completely ridiculous, but it's some very interesting. We also have another one where us as a security department has to get tested as well. And we unfortunately haven't rolled this out yet, but we're having specific other users that are security conscious within IT department actually have access to phish the security department as within parameters as well, following the same process, but not including us, right? So a lot of people, in my experience, have this testing set up, but then they don't test themselves because they're kind of the keys to the kingdom in the testing realm. So that's kind of how we're starting to segregate that out. So feel free to submit external requests to phish us. Let's see, where'd my So going down through here, again, other specific notifications or messages. We laid out exactly what we're going to email afterwards. And either the positive, it's always positive, even though how ridiculous the statistics are, is we always have to give a positive message out. And it's sometimes hard, but you can always find something that's positive. Send that out. And then we got the approval signatures. So that's kind of going through that document. We've had a lot of successes with this document. It's been used a couple times. It's not used every single time there's a test. So when I had the one-timer scheduled, we have scheduled tests. And then we have a whole pool of kind of things that get approved. And then we kind of have also we're starting to roll out, we haven't yet, is like kind of an advanced process to get it quickly through, because we want to get ahead of some of the scam emails out there and test our users beforehand. We've actually had a good success story of testing if you remember the invoice, it's been going on for a long time, but there's ransomware going through the invoices to the fiscal departments. We actually did that test right before we specifically got targeted and got hit, literally a week beforehand, which was kind of creepy, because they thought that our test was still going on. So some people were like, your test is going on and you didn't tell me the scope is still going on, and you can't just do the test without this form. We're like, that's not a test, that's actual, and it was that literally mirrored our specific test that we did. Where am I at here? Can I get over here? No? There we go. So, how do you submit the PTES? Who's submitted? Has anyone ever submitted? How do you submit? So, pretty much. Oh wait, did I just go to? What's going on here? Yes. Yeah. So, pretty much is this. Feel free, email them, right? So that's what we did. We emailed them. It doesn't really say us, and there's like 20 people listed there. So I didn't want to email everyone. So we emailed PTES directly. We emailed Dave. The process is somewhat changing now. So that's pretty much exactly what we did. Is email Dave, and it'll probably get done. So updates of PTES right now is that they're reorganizing, reviewing all submissions until the end of this year. So they have a lot of submissions going on right now, or a lot of people that have submitted things. Have your changes got pushed in? Oh, okay. More important than I am. So,
it was for embedded devices.
Oh, nice. Okay. So, what they're doing is they're formalizing the submission process and kind of analyzing some gaps at the beginning of 2017. So at the beginning of next year, there's going to be a lot more out there. Kind of stay tuned. Again, this is the source. That source may vary. So talked to him when he was here for his keynote. We got to talk very briefly on it. He says a lot of changes within the board. A lot of people that are busy. A lot of people have either dropped off. Again, just kind of repeating, regurgitating this. I actually don't really know. Hopefully, we'll be involved in some form, at least getting a submission in there. We've specifically volunteered ourselves to help formalize the submission process, which we'd be happy to do. And we definitely do that in a secured manner. Again, we don't want to all of a sudden get that website defaced once you start having upload forms and such. So definitely looking forward to doing that in 2017. So stay tuned. Some of the gaps that we've noticed, again, having a how-to of actually navigating PTES. They have a great mind map that's really useful to visualize the entire kind of all the sections and how they correlate with each other. Is great, but it's kind of a how-to of navigating the site itself. Nothing bad about the site. The site's great. It's just that, now that people are using it a lot, we need to start looking at how people can use it more efficiently. The submission process, we know that, again, usually very responsive. How quick was he to kind of update those things? Took a while. Oh, well, usually very responsive. Again, as responsive as a person that does like 100 different things. Again, having a submission process and delegating that and having somebody kind of volunteering specifically for that is good. Again, I want to have a discussion. I was hoping to have a little more interactive here. As well, do you think needs to kind of be put in the PTES? Anything else?
I think there needs to be a lot, and this is something that I don't know if the PTES folks agree with or not, because I've asked for it before and I've never heard any traction on it.
Yeah.
Better marketing material for C-levels, because it sounds real self-evident to us that you need the PTES, but to a lot of people, they're just like it doesn't mean anything to them. And so having more info about what PTES is and what you're signing up for when somebody says that they follow the PTES, I think would be really handy. But I don't know.
Follow on to what you were saying. I agree with you, and I think one way that might be beneficial is I've seen a lot of poor statement of works written from the business side to ask for the service.
Exactly.
They kind of write it, and therefore they're asking for a pen test, and they get somebody comes in and just does a vulnerability scan, and so they're not even getting what they need. And then sometimes they write it up, and it's way overpriced because they don't have to scope it. So I don't know if this is something that the framework would include or potentially.
Yeah.
Understanding how to help the entities write their statement of work so that they can incorporate.
Yeah, exactly, and that kind of, I guess, better explains my how-to, right? Is how to use it. Not only understanding what's in it, but how to use it from both the C-level, the corporate, because that's almost it's more. I guess almost say that's more of a benefit of PTES is for the companies trying to request something and getting back exactly what they expect they get back. Because they might not know what they hear pen test and they're like, yeah, we need to have people try to break into things. They don't know what that means. You do a vulnerability assessment, which will probably show a bunch of stuff on there. They're going to think that that's exactly what that is, right?
Yeah, they could also, if they, they know a buddy that had the P-test run, and they request specifically the P-test, they would know exactly what they'd be looking for because they've heard of it from another company, and it helps keep it all together instead of just pen testing, because as you said, it could be completely different. The one guy comes in, the next guy comes in, or it could be the same guy and it could be two completely different.
Right, and that's where you have to have the standards to be able to correlate, from, and maybe that's something, I don't know if that's in PTES or not, is correlating or comparing trending data from pen test to pen test. Or if that would be or not. I guess just kind of thinking at the whim here. But that's definitely something that needs to, you can't even, if you don't have two apples, you can't really compare them, right? If you have an apple and orange, right? So.
Yeah, I know when we go in and we talk to our partners, and, we recently started doing an email scan, trying to see, doing a phishing campaign. And they had, why are you trying to trick us? You're just trying to, they had no idea.
Right.
And then later on, we decided we had a problem with flash drives. So we were plugging in flash drives with whatever.
Right.
So we started playing flash drives, and they think that pen testing is more like we're just tricking them. And they just think we're bored and got nothing to do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
just want to aggravate them. But if a standard was out there, like this, and they hear that, they're really bad about using other people in the market and what they're doing, they automatically, so, for example, say everybody else gets a Sophos firewall, they come to us and say, why don't you have a Sophos firewall? That's the best one out there just because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
So if there was, if everybody else is getting P-test ran, it would help, keep us from getting turned it, you're just messing with us, you guys are bored, blah, 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 into, hey, this is actually something we need.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And just, I guess, to explain, too, because I just want to, I should have definitely explained this in the beginning of my talk. But PTES is out there. It's at, you can go to PTES-standards.org, I believe, off the top of my head. And you can look at that. They have a mind map on there, just to make sure that's clear to the users as well. Pentest-standard.org. That does exist out there now. The document I just went through, again, isn't an end-all even in that document. That's something that we just created at a very quick manner to solve a problem we had. So if people want to take that, it's not something that we think everyone has to follow, but it's definitely a starting point. I mean, I can definitely say it's helped us. Would that help you guys in a engagement? Anyone that uses, right? I mean, or some form, right? So, right, and then that's what we had. We kind of made it in a way where a contracted agency could use it in a PTES format, but even internally, obviously we're using it for an internal, but we have somewhat the resources to use it. They kind of have those internal resources kind of act as contractors to the other sub-agencies and such. So sometimes we have to kind of be both, our own internal agency and a contracted entity to sub-agencies, sub-political divisions.
You get a position like that, it's easier to find gaps too, when you're both
Right.
the internal and the...
Right. So this is my contact. If anyone wants to, you can contact me at any one of those methods. If you want to know, maybe just, there's really no email subscription list right now on PTES, but email me with a subject head that has like PTES in it. I'll make sure that you guys are on some kind of list eventually, and I'll delegate that to Dave in the back. To keep me on track with that. And I'm not sure the time. But do we have more questions? I didn't mean to cut off questions. Oh, look at that. Got 20 minutes here. What am I going to do for 20 minutes? Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, keep the discussion going. I mean,
this is kind of like a general question. I noticed on your email scheme when you click the link, it automatically told them that hey, this is kind of a trick. This is why it's a trick. We tried that.
What do you mean? I guess go back and define.
When you click the link, it said like an oops. It automatically opens up as an oops page.
No. Once they click the link, it goes to that. It went to the RNC submission page where they had to put in their information.
Okay, and then when they finish.
Yes, and then when they hit click submit, it then went to the oops page. So it's kind of like a tiered approach there.
But yeah, after they filled out the information.
After, yeah.
We would, we're kind of a smaller company, but they would go around, and so like if one person got caught, they would go around and tell everybody else that, hey, they're sending this out.
Yeah, and we had that, a few, but honestly, yeah, we had a few like that, but that happened. We also had specifically somebody that was in charge of some of the analysts that would be in charge of getting the notifications for this, not on the security department side, that thought that they were running an actual test, or running an actual. They actually sent this out themselves. They thought their employees sent this out. It's very interesting, right? But usually, if someone clicks on it and it goes to the oops page, psychologics, from psychology standpoint, they won't tell somebody.
Everybody would know. Okay.
And in a sense, especially when you're talking about like SSNs and stuff, like when you have something that is critical, that's the thing. You can't just have, I believe, to have an actual behavioral change, right? So going from the conditioning perspective to have a behavioral change at the end, which is your goal, is you can't just have a link that goes to an oops page, because then what did that do to them? They didn't lose anything. They didn't gain anything, right?
Yeah.
You need to actually entice them, something that's important to them, in a productive manner, right? You can't just do something really crazy, but get something that personally is to them, right? Their social security number, right? Their employee ID in a sense. Again, that's something from a corporate perspective, but get something that hits home. And it doesn't have to be something just to be a gotcha, but you can be pretty creative in some of the ways. For instance, you could do, instead of doing even on corporate assets, do a Gmail password reset for their personal Gmail, right? Things like that.
We tried to, like, instead of immediately giving a nukes, like a week later, sending an email out to everybody, and did it afterwards, like that.
Yeah.
You
teach moments then.
Yeah.
Because then they kind of forget about it.
Yeah, it is, and definitely. I mean, we went through the same thing when you're thinking about this. It's like, oh, we want to go on, and even the vendor company, the companies that we use, the tool sets we use. I mean, they have their campaign set up that could run like days and weeks and stuff, and it's like, no, you want to do the best, I think, right now, in my personal opinion, is to do a subset of the users, not company-wide, a subset of the users on something specific and have an almost immediate, within an hour, kind of learning, teaching moment. And some of these platforms can hook into, when you get a little more advanced, into LMS systems. So you could actually mandate some training right there, like a 5-minute video, or something. Or even if you get with our HR department, do mandatory stuff. But you want to be very, very careful in that, because the end result, we definitely need, other than just having a formal approval and request process, security awareness. That's why we picked this, because this is the most, if you look at any pen tester out there, what's the easiest way? We saw the video Dave the other day, which, we've seen before, of him getting right into somebody's network within, under 2 minutes, seconds almost, literally. And it's all about social engineering. And that's what we need to protect people from. And the process in that, it's almost a psychology question more than it is a security question. So and honestly, I mean, we haven't done this yet. I at least did, I was also a major in sociology in college. It only goes so far though, but I definitely think that psychologists are going to get more and more involved in security as we go along. And if you guys have those capabilities somewhere, like if you're somehow in a hospital or in a doctor, I mean, it'd be an interesting question to bring up to somebody that's obviously qualified for behavioral analysis. Other interesting people to ask those type of questions to are if you have a hiring board. Some of those people have to have like degrees or specific subsets in behavioral analysis or at least job analysis. And they have a lot of interesting tidbits of information from somewhere that they learned. That's those type of people. Yeah, because like the week long, it's a whole. It depends on your culture too. I mean, and the size.
Yeah.
So. Oh. There.
Did you ever have anybody try to record your follow-up emails since you include links for your internet?
What do you mean? Oh, yes. So spell your follow-up emails correctly. Yes. So after we get a lot more reports now on everything, check all the things. They just send us almost everything now. Is this file okay? Is this file not okay? It's and we kind of we haven't done this yet, but we need to give the users the ability to triage almost themselves a little. Like, here's who you could call. Just call the person. It's almost as simple as that sometimes. They'll send us something, they'll wait. It's like, we need this. It's like, why didn't you just call? You have their extension.
They're asking for money. Why don't you just call them?
Well, not externally. We even get them now internally, right? I mean, we just get everything. If it's an internal person, I mean, talk to them, right?
You mean to send this attention?
Right, exactly. But yeah, we did have some problems with that. I've had problems with that in general, even before the testing, because, again, we centralized very quickly, so we didn't send out emails like all agency-wide before. So some agencies didn't know these email addresses that they were all of a sudden now getting, even from a HR perspective. The HR is centralized now, and they're sending out, and they're like, why am I getting all these? And there's some of these people only log on a computer a couple times a year to do their benefits or something like that. So depending on your culture, your environment, that's something definitely to look for, and I don't have the answer to that. I mean, even some of our communication messages that get out by other departments, like they don't have standard signature. Like you need to have a standard signature and a standard kind of communication format that everyone knows that this at least looks legitimate, even though it can be, copied obviously. But that would maybe help. And then maybe having the C-suite kind of to explain or kick off this process and kind of say that the security department exists. They're going to start sending out these follow-up emails like this, almost like if you have the vector or the method to put a company-wide message like that out, having the C-suite, the executive board, or something go through that. And you should have that anyway to even have a reputable security program. That kind of goes back to the basics of the security program, is having that buy-in at the top.
We went away from even including any links in any of our emails and just replacing like the dots with parentheses.
Right, and that's so when. And to note, on my format or on my email, I had those in there, so the document itself doesn't contain the link, right? Because then you're gonna have, because we were testing this document, and then all of a sudden we were, someone would start clicking on it, and we started getting analytics on our back end. We're like, we haven't even started a test yet, right? So, you definitely using I guess there's specific like safe
I don't know what it's called.
Safe link standard or something. So, is to have those. I would love to go towards that and just take out links altogether. But then you can always go to other methods like, attachments or other things, right? So, was that your question or?
I don't know the question.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know like some agencies that we do business with, that when we get their reply backs, I mean, they're just in straight like, text format where there's this, they strip out everything. All HTML and everything, right? So
What do you guys do for getting folks to buy in on the rules? Because in my experience, that's always the trickiest one. They'll say like, "Oh, that's not fair." Oh, see this.
Cogs.
What? Yeah. Afterwards.
So within, in the past couple years, security is obviously in the news, right? I don't need to go through and explain the landscape now, but I guess maybe we're just fortunate enough, but they're kind of looking at like, what can we do to get better? We need to do something. How do you guys do this? They think it, and we show them enough that kind of gets them interested in it. And with all the new TV shows out there and all this stuff, we kind of have like an awareness session of how, it's not like CSI, and some of the TV shows out, but this is how it actually happens. We can actually, so we sent some of the executives the oops page, like literally, not just in this document, like we literally sent them not only the oops page, but the actual spoof domain. And they're like, how can you do that? Right? And we're like, well, it's not really that difficult. And that got them very interested. And then we had that kind of explanation process. We also have somewhat of a reputation in the area, which helps, again, being involved, knowing some of the people that are now maybe in some positions. And we also kind of and we gave a talk on security awareness and kind of attacking and defending the organization as a whole. It was I think a pretty good talk at DerbyCon there of how to bring and mend from the staffing to the executives to even your own security department and the IT department, and how to kind of like just have everyone all on the same page. I know that's not an answer, but I mean, we just kind of do things to get them think it's very enticing and cool, and kind of gets their brain spinning, and then we kind of get them comfortable with it little by little, and how like certain things can't be done, or how we limit things to be done. And they usually like it. As some of the things to focus on is how we don't collect the data on an individual level, and we only collect on department level. Now, if only one person in the department clicked on it, I mean, obviously you might be able to do some guessing. So we don't, we say that. We could actually get user information and like almost all information, which would help a lot. And they're kind of fine with that too, as we kind of slowly tell them the capabilities. Like, oh, we don't collect this information now. And they're like, oh, okay, that's nice. You're not going to single people out. Yeah. It's like, but we could. And if we could, these are the things that we would be able to do. And also the other, birds that we could, kind of tackle down with, having those capabilities. For instance, we can get browser information. So we can literally know if people's browsers were out of date, which we had, again, centralizing quickly. We didn't really have the best ability to patch and understand what other agencies' patch levels were at that time. And even some still to this time. So that helped a lot too, because then we could say, well, we could actually help these agencies in these other ways without spending more money. So always kind of like going so far and then kind of explaining little by little instead of just trying to go the whole way. But you're going to go, I think that goes to behavioral and like company to company and culture to culture. You'll get some people that just don't think that way. And they might never think that way. And you just have to do your due diligence to a point where it's documented. That's what we do. When we get to that level where that person just won't understand the benefit like how we want to, we document that. Maybe we're wrong. We'll document that and just have it on file. Because they accept the risk at the end of the day. Even though we accept the risk. But wow, that was 20 minutes. What are we doing? Any other questions?
I'll throw out a suggestion. What our compliance person did, she embedded a fake social security number in the email to test our DLP at the same time we tested phishing, which caught people forwarding their work email and private email addresses outside.
Oh, that's a great way to kind of, yeah. 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 When we did the browsing, the understanding the browser information, we can actually go as far with the tool set that we use as actually to understand all the plugins it has, which is very beneficial. Because if you do even limit certain local admin privileges and a lot of things locked down, it's really interesting to test to see if your users could still install plugins or not. Which can do lots of things.
One of our first emailing campaigns, we took one of the employees' names and made that, made like our username and used her username at fakeemail.com. That was the actual email that got sent to them. And they felt like that was unfair because we knew the employee name. Yeah. So to help combat that, we went and pulled up a spam, our filter, and said, look, all these spams are using your all's names that they're finding from LinkedIn, from Facebook. You say you work here, blah, blah, blah. And showing them that kind of stuff helped them understand that, hey, we're not just coming in, this is actually techniques that the hackers are using. And then right after that, we had a hacker actually attempt to come in, and they used the lady's name that she emailed her to in the email, used one of our partners' name in the email, and actually had a real social security number and real tax return in the actual email, what from us.
Right.
But we also showed them that email in the next presentation, and that really helped enlighten them.
Right.
So you can do things like that to help.
Yeah, definitely. And depending on your agency and stuff, I mean, certain things are just public record anyway. So I don't want to, yeah. Yep. Any other questions, comments, suggestions?